When you do eventually colonize Mars, what's the idea in terms of terraforming? Is it contained ecosystems that are under domes? Like what are you planning on doing to make it habitable?
Well, at first you would have to have a life support system, because Mars has a low density atmosphere, only about 1% the density of Earth, and it's primarily CO2. Now, over time, you can terraform Mars. Terraform means make it like Earth, essentially. And if you warm Mars up, you will. There's a bunch of frozen CO2 that will evaporate, densify the atmosphere, and you'd actually want kind of global warming on Mars, because Mars is about 50% further away from the sun than the Earth. So it gets about less than half the solar energy that Earth does.
And it's believed at one point in time Mars had a much different environment, right?
It appears highly likely that Mars had liquid oceans, albeit a long time ago. There's a lot of ice. So Mars is covered in ice. And now the ice is then covered in dust for the mostly, except at the poles. So there's a lot of ice. In fact, I believe if Mars was warmed up, you'd have an ocean about a mile deep on 40% of the planet.
Wow.
So it's quite a lot of water.
And do we think that it was like that at one point in time?
The evidence suggests that it is most likely that Mars had liquid water.
What's the prevailing theory of its demise?
Well, just over time, the solar system cooled. So Earth used to be much hot. In the very early Earth was like molten rock. So really almost nothing could survive in the beginning. We were just a ball of lava. We're still mostly a ball of lava. We're like creme brulee. Like there's a thin crust, and it's mushy rock very hot mushy rock underneath. And technically that rock is in a semi-solid state, but as soon as it gets to a low pressure, like pops out of the ocean, you have a volcano, obviously, with lava.
Yeah.
So it's at surface ambient pressure, we're basically covered in liquid rock.
Are you aware?
We're a thin crust on liquid rock.
Are you aware of the origin myth of the Dogon tribe?
No.
There's a tribe I believe it's a tribe I forget what part of Africa, but they believe that they came from Mars, and that there was a civilization that left Mars, many, many eons ago. And it's a really weird theory, because they know some things about Mars.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't come from Mars.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure too. But I mean, it's.
Do they have any spaceships? If they don't have any spaceships, then I'm like, I don't believe it.
Well,
if you do have a spaceship, I'll believe it.
If you parked a spaceship, how many thousands of years? If you parked a metal spaceship, like if you left a Cybertruck in the desert, how many thousands of years do you think it would be there for, before it's gone?
If it got buried in dirt, you'd find it even like 1 million years from now.
1 million?
Yeah.
Wow. Really?
Well, what you'd find is
stainless steel, so it'd have to be some sort of an alloy.
It's kind of like.
But iron wouldn't, right?
Yeah, but you'd have something similar to like fossils, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fossils.
Oh, okay.
They essentially discolor the rock. So eventually, whatever the fossil is, and sometimes they're fossils like an amber or something like that. That's where it still does survive more or less intact. But I mean, there's fossilized like dinosaur fossils and tree fossils that
essentially remineralized, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd see like a Cybertruck shape in the rock, basically.
Yeah, but that's it. You wouldn't find the actual Cybertruck. So if they did have a spaceship and it came here 30,000 years ago.
Oh yeah, we'd definitely find evidence of it. Well, if it was one spaceship, maybe not, but if it was a lot of them, sure.
That is the origin myth of the Dogon tribe, right? Am I getting that right?
Mars specifically, it's a hidden star in the Sirius.
Oh, it's somewhere else.
System. Yeah.
You cannot be serious.
Sirius XM. It's just very strange when people have this bizarre origin myth. Like, I wonder who was the first one to tell them they came from stars. And when we eventually do, I mean, how bizarre. Imagine if you're successful. We eventually do colonize Mars, and you're correct. Earth winds up through human folly or natural disaster getting wiped out. And there's only the colony on Mars. And that colony exists for 10, 20,000 years, and they have their origin myth that we all came from Earth. I mean, ultimately, that's going – if this does happen, and you do colonize Mars and Earth does get destroyed, and if there a period of time takes place, like look at the period, like at least the conventional timeline of the Great Pyramid, which is 4,500 years ago.
5,000 years.
Yeah. So that's not that much time.
It's not that much time.
No, I mean, if
it's nothing on the galactic time scale.
Right. So if we're talking 20, 30,000 years from now on Mars, and people talk about Times Square and what Earth used to be like.
I mean, it is. I think like there's some debate as like how do you say when did civilization start? And I'd say like probably from the first writing. Mm-hmm. And the first writing is only 5,500 years old.
Yeah,
it's worth reading about the history of writing, but only 5,500 years. And one has to credit basically the ancient Sumerians who aren't around anymore with the first writing.
Are you aware though that like there's hieroglyphs that depict a history of Egypt that goes back far longer, maybe even 30,000 plus years ago? But archaeologists dismiss it because they think that that's mythical. But non-conventional archaeologists who believe in what's called the Younger Dryas impact theory, and that somewhere around 11,800 years ago, civilization was essentially all but wiped out by comet impacts. And that is the reason why they keep finding these insanely old, huge structures, megalithic structures that are carved out of stone. Like when you go back to like Göbekli Tepe, which is 11,600 years ago. That's an insanely old structure that they didn't even know people were capable of building until they discovered it in the 1990s. So the conventional timeline of people, when you go to 11,600 years ago, was just hunter-gatherers. But now that they have Göbekli Tepe with its 3D carved things, and have you seen Graham Hancock's amazing series on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse?
No.
You should check it out. It's amazing. But it's about that. It's all about that there's a lot of physical evidence of an advanced civilization from far, far, far longer ago than we have conventionally dated, which is ancient Sumer.